Hey everyone, check out this tiny ladder at the Hateno Ancient Tech Lab. Yeah, you can't really climb it, doesn't work for some reason. Which wouldn't be all that interesting if not for the fact that the exact same ladder in Breath of the Wild functioned more or less how you would expect. There, you could just sit on it and fully climb it like normal, which you can't do in Tears of the Kingdom. Really strange considering, again, it's literally the same ladder, and these two games control essentially the same. The only thing you can't do in either game is go down it from the top, which is more understandable, but the fact that anything about this ladder was changed in general is the weird part. Anyways, Tears of the Kingdom has been out for a while now, and wow, what a game. I already fully beat it, which took me 250 hours, but 240 of those were just me looking for dumb useless pieces of trivia like that ladder thing. For example, did you know that if you have a vehicle with a steering stick on it, if you use recall specifically on the steering stick and then as it's going backwards try to use it, the silhouettes of the steering stick showing the path it'll take actually tilt when you move it, which doesn't really make sense if you think about it, but it's funny. Something else that's funny is that the criminally underused homing cart Zonai device has some characteristics of a real-life dog. Normally they chase after enemies and damage them by running into them, and they look around for enemies if none are near, pretty standard stuff. But did you notice that when it's searching for enemies, it'll wag its little tail, and when they're actually chasing after enemies, its tail is stationary and won't move. In real life, dogs slowly wag their tail when they're both happy and more importantly, alert, and when their tails are stationary, that means they're currently displaying dominance, and we can see this same behavior in the homing carts. Their tails are wagging when there aren't any enemies around, which would naturally mean they're more relaxed and happy, but they're also on the lookout for more enemies, meaning they're currently on high alert, since that's their job and all. And their tails not moving when there actually are enemies around is an indication of them trying to show dominance, which makes sense since they're trying to defeat them. It's pretty clear to me that their tails are not dog tails in this aspect, but it could also just be that they're more happy to be spending time alone with Link without any dangerous enemies around, which is also an adorable way of looking at this. Anyways, in this video I'm going to be going over some useless pieces of trivia I found while playing, and things you guys mentioned to me in a tweet I made asking for this kind of stuff. In the very first announcement trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, when its name wasn't even known yet, Link and Zelda can be seen exploring beneath Hyrule Castle like at the start of the actual game. A key difference though is that this strange animal carrying their stuff is nowhere to be seen in the final game. So what's the deal with that? Did they just decide not to use that creature in the game? Well, not exactly. Even though it doesn't show up in the opening as was originally most likely intended, they do show up in the Faron region near the lakeside stable, which is interesting enough on its own, but if you talk to the caretaker near them, she says they're called Don-Dons and were actually discovered by Zelda herself. In that trailer, Zelda can be seen riding on top of one, and the caretaker says that Zelda really dotted on them, which essentially means they were really close. Anyone else never hear about that term before this game? Anyways, really cool detail that they decided to reuse this animal from the reveal trailer that Zelda was seen riding into a species she herself discovered. That makes this scene feel less like a thing that was completely scrapped from the game, and more like something that could have actually happened in the past. Either way, it's definitely a callback to that trailer, which is nice considering we sat on that thing for like 2 years. Yikes. Another detail about these animals is that they illuminate a bit in the dark, which didn't happen in the reveal trailer, where they were in a cave that was definitely pretty dark, so that detail was decided upon later. Now let's actually talk about stuff in the game. Staying on the topic of Lakeside Stable, there's a poster of a cooking recipe on the wall just like most other stables, but if you take a picture of this one using your Pira pad, the NPC standing nearby will actually say that she hopes she wasn't in the way of the picture you just took, if you talk to her afterwards. The NPCs in this game get praised a lot online for how detailed they are, and little things like this just reinforce that so much to me. Like, how many people do you think would actually take the effort of taking an in-game picture with the camera mode instead of just taking a screenshot with the Switch's capture button? Also, whenever you talk to an NPC, there are these two little bright bloom seed icons on both sides of the text box with an eye and what looks like a little wing next to them. But whenever you talk to an inanimate object, like reading a sign, then the bright bloom icons don't have that eye and wing on the side. I don't really know why, maybe to indicate that what you're talking to isn't alive and thus wouldn't have an eye or a wing, but it's a useless little fact, and I mean, that's what you clicked on this video for, right? And speaking of NPCs, let's talk about my favorite one for a little bit, Cece. It's pretty well known by now that if you talk to her while wearing the Hylian hood headpiece, she will offer to lower the cap for you, making it look different. Pretty cool. When I originally got my Tears of the Kingdom amiibo, I thought it was a little silly that Link had the hood down on it cause that's not what it looks like in game, but no, you actually can make it look like that, which is nice. Be careful though, if you have multiple copies of the Hylian hood in your inventory, she will actually change all of them instead of just the one you're wearing, for some reason. So if you're like me and you want a copy of both styles so you can freely swap between them, you have to first let her lower a Hylian hood for you, and then buy another copy, since that new one will have the hood upwards by default. And from then on out, whenever you talk to her with either Hylian hood equipped, just decline her offer to change it for you, otherwise she'll just ruin your collection. And if you accidentally do say yes because you're mashing through her text, just reload your save or something, you'll be fine. And speaking of Cece, eventually you can let her give you a fashion check, wherein she will give a ranking of whatever outfit you're wearing. If you wear a full set of something, she will always give you 100 points, though the type of points, I guess, changes sometimes. For example, she will give the full Flamebreaker set a heated 100 points, and the full Snowquill set a balmy 100 points, whatever that means. If you wear a mismatch of different sets, she will at least call you original, but say you're lacking coordination and only give you 50 points, which she also does if you only wear part of a set and not the full thing, which I consider to be a little insulting because the new Archaic series doesn't have a headpiece. And I mean, I think it looks pretty great, and yet she only gives it 50 points because it's technically not a full set. Talk about unfair. And lastly, if you wear the Cece head, which she herself made, she will always give you 100 points, no matter what else you're wearing under it, even if you're completely naked. Talk about being full of yourself. I mean, it's a pretty stylish hat to be fair. One thing you may have noticed is that whenever she gives you points, the text box always spells out the score in numbers, 100 or 50. I mean, makes sense, right? Well, yeah, but there are actually 3 sets in the game where her text box writes the score out in letters instead of numbers, for some reason. Those being the Zora set, which gives you 100 waterlogged points, the Radiant set, which gives you 100 shimmering points, and lastly the Nothing set, which gives you a whopping 0 points spelled out in letters. Ouch. Also, that's worth nothing, but as soon as you slap on a silly hat that you made, it rockets to 100 points? Okay, Cece, I see you. Those are the only 3 sets with this weird quality in the game, and I wanted to see if anyone on Twitter knew this beforehand, promising the first person to answer correctly a shoutout in this video. And guess what? Even though there's over 100 replies, not a single person got it right, so nobody wins. Go on, shake my hand. If I ever make a part 2 to this video, I'll include another questionnaire Twitter fact like this, so if you think you got what it takes, go on, throw me a follow. Anyways, last thing I want to mention about this scoring system is that there actually is one outfit in the game that's worth more than 100 points, and that would be the most basic one of them all, the Hylian set, which she rates 100 points times 2, making for a total of 200 points, because there's 2 ways to wear the Hylian hood, I guess. Oh, and the score doesn't change depending on how you wear the cap. Which means that this is canonically the most drip you can have in the game, so none of you are allowed to make fun of the silly colors I gave them on my save file. Cece said I look very handsome. And since we're in Hateno Village anyways, this has been well documented by now, but I still want to mention it. Back in Breath of the Wild at the end of the Champions Ballad DLC, you get a memory of Link, Zelda, and the 4 champions all taking a nice picture together. And after this you get the picture as an item, which you can then hang up in Link's house. Doesn't really do anything, but it's a nice reminder of your friends. Well, if you've done this and then on the same Nintendo Switch go to the same spot in Tears of the Kingdom, the picture will actually still be there. Which is really cool because yes, it does actually check your Breath of the Wild save data for this. Even if you've played Breath of the Wild on your Switch before, if you haven't obtained and hung up this picture, it just won't be there at all in Tears of the Kingdom. Really nice way to have that DLC journey remembered all these years later. And hey, speaking of finding stuff where you've left them, in Tears of the Kingdom, Korok puzzles return, which I'm sure everyone is just super thrilled about. A new type of Korok puzzle are these ones where you'll find a tiny tree with some sticks pointing outwards, and you'll have to find a nearby boulder to balance on top of this tree. If you do so, you'll be rewarded with a Korok seed. Neat stuff. Here's the interesting part, these puzzles weren't in Breath of the Wild, but that game had some Korok puzzles where you'll find a hole in the ground, which you'll have to put a nearby boulder into to get rewarded a Korok seed. Any place where there was a puzzle like this in Breath of the Wild, there's now one of those tiny tree puzzles in Tears of the Kingdom. And what's more, the boulder will always be located exactly where you had to bring them to in Breath of the Wild. So the boulders are exactly in the same spot where you left them. You can essentially play footage of these 2 types of puzzles back to back, and it'll look kind of like a bigger puzzle that nets you 2 Korok seeds. I mean, it doesn't do that, but hey, that's what it would appear like. What a cute idea. And now, finally, we're gonna talk about something really big, the depths. As I'm sure you know, this is an entire second overworld located under the surface, and throughout the game you'll be vaguely told by various NPCs that there's some kind of connection between the surface and the depths, and this rings true in a lot of different ways. The most notable one, which I'm sure you've noticed by now, is that the map is essentially an inverted version of the surface. Wherever there's water on the surface, there's a big wall of nothing in the depths. And most obvious, the elevation is reversed, so wherever there's a big mountain on the surface, there's a big hole of the same size under it in the depths. So yeah, the surface and depths are connected. Big newsflash, I know. But I was actually surprised by the amount of connections I didn't initially realize. One thing that took me an embarrassing amount of time to notice is that wherever there is a shrine of light on the surface, there's a light root directly under it, pretty much in the exact same location. So if you look at the map and keep swapping between the layers, we can see they're in the same spot. The only notable exception I was able to find is the Turakawak shrine located north of the Gerudo region, which isn't directly above its corresponding light root for some reason, though they're still really close. Now I know that could actually be seen as a useful fact, as it can be used to locate missing shrines and light roots, which I know isn't in the spirit of this video, so here's something actually useless about this that took me even longer to notice. The name of each light root is actually the name of the shrine above it in reverse. So for example, Sonapan Shrine on the surface is directly above Napuno's light root, which is Sonapan in reverse. Yamiyo Shrine is above Ojimai light root, Anadamimik Shrine is above Kimima Dena light root, and so on. There are even more interesting parallels between the surface and the depths than this, by the way. For example, one I didn't know of until making this video is that wherever there is a stable on the surface, there's a lino in the depths below it, calling back to the fact that horses and linos are a little bit alike. Forelegs, hoofs, manes, you get what I mean. This isn't true for the two mini stables in the game, namely the one in Lookout Landing and the one by Dig Dog Suspension Bridge, which makes sense because there's just nothing under there in the depths, just walls. But there is one normal stable without a lino under it in the depths, and that's the Tabantha Bridge stable located by Hyrule Ridge. Yeah, there's just no lino under it. I don't really know why. This is the only non-mini stable in the game where this is the case. It's not a big deal, I suppose, but it's just a little strange. I mean, they could have easily just put one here. Here's my favorite connection between these two overworlds. I'm sure you've spotted these little rock formations before with ghosts of soldiers on top of it, holding a non-decayed weapon for you to grab. And you may have also spotted these stone tablets on the surface before with a silent princess on top of it. If you read their description, it says that these monuments are dedicated to the memory of the souls lost to the calamity, aka those who died during that time. Well, wherever there's one of these monuments on the surface, there's a big stone structure below it in the depths with 3 soldier ghosts giving non-decayed weapons, which if you see these as graves is pretty fitting, if not a little morbid. There are a lot of those smaller spires with 1 ghost on them, so this doesn't ring true for those, only the big ones with 3 ghosts on them. And speaking of those ghosts, they actually disappear if you try looking at them through your camera rune, which is weird, but interesting. I don't really know why that happens though, maybe it's a reference to a Fatal Frame or something, who knows. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. I have more of these useless cell effects I'd love to share, but not enough for an entire second video. So if you like this video, be sure to let me know that you'd like a part 2, and more importantly, feel free to share any bits of useless trivia about this game you might know about, so that I can actually make another one of these. Just remember that it actually has to be useless, or mostly useless at least. As a reminder, some of the facts in this video were submitted to me by my Twitter followers, so big thanks to Bay Left for the Korak Boulder fact, Chris Haka Sunset for the homing cart fact, and Xas41 for the light root names fact, which yes, I actually didn't notice on my own even after finishing all of them. If I make a part 2 of this, I'm most likely just gonna keep it to YouTube comment submissions, so don't forget to tell me anything interesting you might know. Big thanks of course to ExoBear, Sheen for the Win, Noso, Ride the Yoshi, The Game Didi, Sylvian700, Milk and Frogs, The Flying Fire, Giant Firing Coal, Lime the Chef, Gurk, LurFX1, CPJ, Quote is Cool, and the rest of my lovely Patreon supporters. Feel free to check out my Patreon page if you wish to support the channel in a big way. Thanks for watching everyone, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. Oh, and also, Smash Brothers! There, I've mentioned it.